Hello everybody, Jester here, and welcome back to another Elder Scrolls Online video. But today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So in this video I'm going to be pretty much telling you about all of my Elder Scrolls Online characters, including their personalities, their backstories, all that sort of stuff, because for those of you who don't know, I am a sucker for lore. So I really like to take great care when I create my characters and think up of backstories for them, personalities, and how they're integrated into the lore of Tamriel. So let's start off with my main sorcerer guy. This is Edward Iceheart. He is a Breton mage, sorcerer class, and for the most part, whenever he's travelling about, he sort of comes across as a very humble and helpful pilgrim. He helps people where he can, and he doesn't, try to be too overbearing in his travels. He claims his staff is just a walking stick, which of course people will expect from a guy with a full beard. But when he has to do battle, he puts on the armor that he took from Manimarco's corpse when he killed him, and he reveals that his quote-unquote walking stick is in fact a deadly ice staff, which he uses with great effect. Edward Iceheart does have a firm belief that it is his destiny to rule. He has got a very dominant and commanding aura about him ever since he was a child, but he does have slight anger issues. When he was in his late teens, he had a bit of an issue which caused him to go on a pilgrimage to the throat of the world, High Hrothgar in Skyrim. This was before the Alliance War and everything. He went on a pilgrimage there to try and control his anger, maybe try and harness it, see if he could get any sort of power from it. And it was on the trek up the mountain that he discovered his gift for ice magic, or cryomancy as it's called. So he did that. He spent a couple of years at High Hrothgar, and when he came back, he travelled as a pilgrim. He kept the pilgrim garb and I suppose personality for the most part, but he is in fact a very deadly mage. Next up, we have got another sorcerer, but this is the polar opposite. Well, not the polar opposite, but she is quite the opposite of Edward Iceheart. This is Kaldania Patadia. She is an imperial warrior sorcerer. She is a sorcerer class, but she wears heavy armor and wields a battle axe. Kaldania used to be a small standing noblewoman in the imperial city. She was born in, where was that again? I think it was Chorrol. I think she was born. Then her parents sent her to live with her aunt and uncle in the imperial city to sort of teach her the ways of the royal court, so to speak. In her early 20s, she was set to marry a nobleman who had connections to the Ruby Throne in hopes to elevate her family further up the political ladder, so to speak. But it was at this time that Manimarco captured her, sent her to Cold Harbour, and in Cold Harbour she became scarred both mentally and, as you can see, physically. She lost part of her beauty, and she came to learn that life isn't all daisies and dresses. So when she escaped Cold Harbour, she took up the battle axe and became a very hardened warrior. But while in Cold Harbour, she learned of her rather powerful gift with magicka. She had a very strong connection to her magicka, and she learned to use it in certain ways. She manages to summon a Clanfia to, I suppose, be her friend, because that's pretty much her only friend, aside from the other, aside from 2 Argonians, who I will get onto later. But Kaldania is a very commanding woman, which she needs to be. She's very ruthless and pretty much really, what's the word? I suppose merciless would be the word. She's a really brutal warrior. Next up is my latest creation in Elder Scrolls Online. This is Cywing Oaken Sky. He is a Bosmer vampire, and he fights for the Iceheart Pact. The reason for this is that he believes that the Green Pact has made his people, the Bosmer, far too complacent and and docile. He believes that the Bosmer should be a lot more firm and assertive, and that they should be leading the ordinary Dominion. But, well, he also, he doesn't really like to go along with the grain, so to speak. He likes to be an individual, so he was pretty much banished from Valenwood for speaking his mind against the Wilder King and King Cameron and the ordinary Dominion. So he instead pretty much travelled to Blackmarsh, which was the nearest place he could from where he was at the time. And then he ended up just travelling north up to Morrowind, Mournhold, and he eventually joined up with the Dominion. He doesn't do it because he is faithful to the Dominion. He's pretty much doing it just to prove a point. He's a very, very stubborn Bosmer. Of course, he would join the opposing army just to prove a point. So he became a vampire. I haven't actually gotten onto that part yet in his backstory. I've just gotten that pretty much plain backbone of it pretty much done. I'll think up some more of how he became a vampire, all of that sort of stuff. I'll find out the details at a later date. Next up is my assassin character. This is actually one of my favourite characters to play as. Excuse me. This is Skardo Pihoseus. He is a Nightblade Argonian, of course, and he is an assassin. A very fantastic assassin, one of the best. However, he is not affiliated with the Dark Brotherhood, the Morag Tong, or the Shadow Scales, because he is very much a loner. In fact, he hates the Dark Brotherhood, the Morag Tong, and the Shadow Scales because he believes that they are cowards who need to hold each other's hands when they step into the shadows. He managed to avoid the slavery in Morrowind by killing the guards that came for him when he was a child. He didn't mean to do it, but ever since then he's sort of come to terms with it. He's kind of decided, okay, this is what I'm good at, I might as well do it. Skardo is a very, very expensive assassin because he's one of the best. His motto is no loose ends, because he leaves no witnesses and he usually frames somebody else for the crime. He makes sure that nobody knows that he was involved in it. He leaves no evidence, nothing. He is also, I suppose you could say he's rather selfish. He usually doesn't do anything unless he gets something out of it. Usually gold. Right now he's fighting for the Pact because he's on the payroll of Yoren the Skald King, who has hired him to take care of all of the Udmeri and Covenant commanders who take care of forces in Pact lands. Next up is a character that you all should probably recognise. This is Gilai Lafzar. He is the Argonian who I did my playthrough with. He, of course, is an Argonian vampire. He became a vampire when he first met Skardo. Skardo managed to scratch him, and Gilai sort of went to a quote-unquote priest of Arche who claimed that she could cure him, but in actual fact she ended up sending him further path down of vampirism until he became a fully fledged vampire. He hasn't gotten himself cured yet because he feels that he needs the power that vampirism can grant him. As for his backstory, he and his brother, who I will get onto next, grew up in Blackmarsh pretty much, and when they were in their early teens they got taken to Morrowind for slavery. Gilai worked in the plantations while his brother worked in the Kwama mines. Gilai was always a sort of, I suppose, an honourable soul is the right word. He was honourable, he was pretty docile, but he was also one for speaking his mind. For example, asking why the taskmasters were beating the Argonians for no apparent reason, and because of that he would always get the worst beatings, which left him scarred in several ways. But then of course he got captured by Mannimarco and got sent to Cold Harbour, and when he came back he decided that he might as well help the pact for the time being, and of course he had to help the others defeat Molag Bal as well, which was of course the biggest threat to Tamriel. But once he did that, he decided that he wanted to settle down. He bought a house in Black Marsh. He hunts the Wamasu every now and then, and for a living he's pretty much a woodworker. Pretty much, he's a carpenter, which is what he does for a living. Pretty strange for a vampire, but he also sort of does freelance work. He's sort of a blade for hire every once in a while, but he settled down in Black Marsh. Finally, we come to what I see as my pride and joy. This is my first ever Elder Scrolls Online character, and definitely my favourite above all of them. This is Dramzor. You might recognise him from my tutorial videos. Obviously his armour has gone through some changes, but this guy is definitely, I've had him ever since I started playing this game. In my opinion, you do not love an Elder Scrolls Online character more than your first one. I love this guy, and he is a Dragon Knight. He wears heavy armour and wields a two-handed greatsword. The greatsword in question is actually a Khajiit style, which I think looks awesome. It looks really brutal and merciless, kind of like the swords that the orcs use in Lord of the Rings. What's the name of those ones that Saruman made? I can't remember. But anyway, it looks like them, and I just think it looks really awesome. This guy, he's a tank pretty much. Armor was my main concern making this character. He's got on average about 2300 armor physical resistance attribute, which is pretty good. Granted, especially giving my other characters usually have about 13,000, stuff like that, but it is really, really good to have 23,000 armor points. But anyway, his backstory is that he is he is Gilai's brother. Of course, he worked in the mines, and he is a very angry Argonian. Obviously, he hasn't really let go that the Dunmer enslaved the Argonians and pretty much forced him to do their dirty work. Although he does fight alongside them and knows that not all Dunmer were evil and slavers, he still hasn't quite forgiven them. But thankfully he vents that anger in other ways. For example, he's a werewolf, and whenever he loses control of his anger, he pretty much lets out in his werewolf form. He transforms into this raging beast which claws and tears at everything that makes him angry, which is unfortunately usually some poor soul that's in front of him. But he tears them apart, and then when he goes back to his Argonian self, he does feel a small bit of regret, but not really enough to make him, get all sappy. He is a rather merciless warrior. He doesn't believe in second chances, and if he could, he would pretty much kill everybody who wronged him. But his brother has sort of brought out the merciful and honourable side in him, and every once in a while, in special circumstances, he will sort of give people second chances and give them the benefit of the doubt. His brother has made him realise that it's always best to look for the best in people, even if they have wronged you. But of course, there are some circumstances where he will show no mercy at all. Dramzo is firmly aligned with the Pact. He fights for the Pact still, and he fights in Cyrodiil with his, Argonian, Nord, and Dunmer comrades, and he has gone up to the rank of corporal, I suppose. Yeah, he's going up to the rank of corporal, and he has been offered promotions for his service, but he decides, to just stay at that rank because he has plenty of time to kill the Dominion and Covenant in Cyrodiil, but he's also got time to go back, visit his brother, and sort of catch up with old friends in Skyrim, Morrowind, and Blackmarsh. So, those are my Elder Scrolls Online characters. As you can see, the last three characters, Gila, Dramzo, and Skardo, I have put the most thought into the backstories because I've had them the longest. The other two, Kaldania and Edward, and also Cywing, of course, haven't really had them quite as long. But like I said, well, I haven't actually said it, but I do like to try and keep my characters' sort of backstories unique, but also sort of not too lore breaking. Like, I don't say this guy's the Archmage of the College of Winterhold, or this guy's the General of the Iceheart Pact Army, or something, or anything like that. I try to keep them sort of humble, but at the same time, kind of, they fit into the lore, so to speak. Like Dramzo, I try to think of a rank that isn't really too high up, but isn't exactly like a private either. He's kind of in the middle. He would probably be lost on the list of names, but he wouldn't be like forgotten, so to speak. And Skardo, of course, he's an assassin and he doesn't leave any trace of himself, so that's alright. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I just decided to make this video just to sort of give you a little bit of insight into my mind and sort of tell you or show you how much I love my characters. I know that might sound weird, but as I said, I take great care when I create all my characters. I try to make them look good. I try to make them sort of suit their backstory. For example, Skardo, when I first made him, I went into the character creator and I thought, right, this is going to be an assassin. So I made his scales black. I didn't give him any distinct markings. I gave him some red face paint, which in hindsight was actually a pretty bad idea, because when you turn into a vampire, it's pretty much just a white sheet across the skin, pretty much. His red face paint ended up turning pink. So I'm not really bothered by that, because as you saw, I've got the face mask to hide that. So and of course, when I was making Kaldania, I was actually just like, I wanted to have like a female character, and I also wanted to have an Imperial character, one that wasn't an Argonian or a Khajiit, one that was actually human. So I was pretty much looking through like the body markings, thinking, right, she's going to be a warrior who's got a connection with Magicka. Then I saw the burn mark, which covered like half the body and half the face, and I was like, perfect, unique, sets her apart, amazing. So yeah, Edward Iceheart, he kind of took me a little bit to think up of a backstory. I wasn't really sure what to have him. Then I unlocked the Man and Marco costume, put it on him, and I was like, right, he is going to be a leader, As for Cywing, excuse me, I originally made him to sort of record a small clip of Man and Marco's voice for a friend, because I love Man and Marco's voice in this game. But as I was making him, I was originally just going to go for randomized appearance and boom, just go. But then I just sort of started thinking, right, I do want a wood elf. So So then I actually took my care of actually creating him, because this was going to be my next character, my next creation in this game. So I took great care. I randomized the appearance a few times just so he wasn't, completely like too similar to the default character, and then I sort of made my own little tweaks. Sewing, I'm looking forward to playing with him, although he is absolutely tiny because he's a Bosmo, and I did put the height meter quite low, so now I think he's about half the size of Lyris Titanborn. He's just so tiny, but yeah, obviously that will actually help him because he's obviously a roguelike character, so being small will help him move faster, move into small spaces, sort of he won't attract the eye as much. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe if you're not already, and share this video with your friends to expand the circus, and I will see you all in my next video. This is Jester, signing off.